Well, Tallinn doesn't have gestational diabetes.
Yay! You guys, so I took the gestational diabetes test and they didn't tell me to fast because it was the first test. Apparently, you don't have to fast, it's 1 hour long. So I had a full on breakfast and then a couple hours later, I went to take the test.
By the way, there's a test that you do when you're pregnant to make sure that you don't have gestational diabetes. Just to make it obvious.
Yeah, because in the third trimester, things start happening. Anemia, gestational diabetes, maybe preeclampsia. Like just the risks are high and the baby's like stealing all your nutrients. It's just
especially when you have PCOS too. A lot of those risks are a bit higher due to PCOS complications.
Doctor said you got PCOS. Now go on, girl, just lose some weight. Till I took the symptoms into my own hands and reverse them naturally.
So the first test, I went and the lady at the office was like, why aren't you fasting? I'm like, they didn't tell me to fast. And then I called the doctor and she's like, you don't have to fast. I said, okay, what is happening? And then I asked my friend and she's like, yeah, I was fasting. And just like a lot of mixed things.
Yeah, a lot of misinformation or a lot of conflicting information.
So then I took the test and I didn't pass. And
barely though, you barely didn't pass. Like the number was, let's say 160, you were at like 162.
I felt like I was slapped in the face after all the hard work I put into things like my health. I hadn't been eating any sugar. I don't have crazy cravings. I feel like I'm totally fine. I was just like really in shock. And then our baby shower happened, New Year's happened. I had a lot of distractions and I never like retook the test. And then I went to the doctor and she was like, you need to retake this test. Like we need to know if you have gestational diabetes and it could be dangerous for the baby. I'm like, oh, okay. So then the next day I took the test and I passed.
Yay! With flying colors. Yes. But this time you actually fasted for the whole...
I fasted for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And I was very intentional. I had a high protein, low carb dinner. I had salad with meat. That was it. Like I didn't have not one thing for 12 hours before the test, after I ate that dinner. And I was just really careful about it. And as it turns out, like when you don't pass the gestational diabetes test, it's not because you ate too much sugar or you have a poor diet. Usually it's because your placenta is actually producing hormones that block insulin. And this is normal and expected. And that's why they do the test because they want to see how bad it is if you're struggling with this because it's dangerous for the baby if it's uncontrolled, if your blood sugar is uncontrolled. So, I mean, having PCOS and insulin resistance does make you more at risk for gestational diabetes. And I thought I had it under control and I passed the test and everything, but if I didn't have it under control and I was like I needed a few days to mentally prepare myself for the second test in case I didn't pass.
I mean, Tanya was like tripping out. I was like, how could you have gestational diabetes? First of all, like you're so skinny for someone in their third trimester. Like, like some people obviously get a little bit more rounder.
Voluptuous.
Yeah.
My sister was like curvy.
But some people are like more like athletic when they have more of an athletic pregnancy. I don't know how to say this without.
I was barely eating. I don't understand. Like,
so you look more of the athletic pregnant lady. So I was just like, how could you have gestational diabetes? But obviously with PCOS and in general with gestational diabetes, it's happening in the fetus, not so much so outside of your body. So
yeah, PCOS women are 2 to 4 times higher risk of having gestational diabetes. And that's what my doctor said after I failed. And I was like,
the first time.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this PCOS is just going to haunt me.
Yeah.
But it's okay. So I was mentally preparing myself in case I didn't pass the second time. And I said, look, if I don't pass, I'm taking my inositol twice a day. Like I hadn't been taking it because I thought I was fine. And I had like a game plan. It was going to be okay. And that's when I finally took the second test.
Yeah.
So just for anyone out there.
Yes.
Girl, there are ups and downs. We're going to get through this.
Let us know too in the comments if you've gone through the gestational diabetes test and how it was for you. Was it scary? Was it like, were you also confused like Tallinn about your the first one, fasting or not fasting? It's just a lot of conflicting information. One from the person at the lab place and then the doctor. It's like there should be a set national rule
Yes.
for how to take that test. But anyway, I think if you fasted the first time around, you would have been completely fine because you barely didn't pass.
I know.
Barely.
That's what I'm saying.
Even while you weren't fasting.
What a waste. I had to drink 75 grams of sugar. Do you know how disgusting
Well,
that
explain
tastes?
it. Can you explain the test to people so they understand like what happens?
So the first time they give you a drink that's 50 grams of sugar. I got like a healthier version of that drink. Sirak, what was the brand?
The fresh test.
The fresh test. Healthier. But I mean, it's still sugar. It just didn't have artificial flavors in it. It was like lemon with the sugar and water, basically. And I had 50 grams of sugar. You sit there, you don't move.
But first you do a blood test before you drink it.
Yes.
Okay, explain it properly, please.
Okay. I don't remember. No. You don't. So first you drink it.
Oh, I thought the second time you did it before and then after.
No. The first time you drink it and then they do a blood test an hour later to see what's happening to your blood sugar. There was no before. There was no blood test before. The second time I did it, I drank 75 grams of sugar. They did a blood test before I drank the sugar. Then they did a blood test an hour after, and then an hour after that. So 2 hours after I drank the sugar.
And they're seeing
3 blood tests from the same arm.
So they're seeing how your blood sugar is reacting after this drink to make sure there's no like bad reaction that points to
gestational diabetes. Like if it was over the limit, it would be gestational diabetes. And let me tell you, that drink is disgusting. After drinking 75 grams of sugar, you just want to take a nap for the rest of the day. You're in a bad mood. Now, I mean, like I look back on it, I'm like, wow, this is what it feels like to be insulin resistant and your blood sugar going up and down all the time. It causes such fatigue, such anxiety, such a bad mood for no good reason. It was like I was on a blood sugar roller coaster. So it was like a throwback to when I had really bad insulin resistance in college and I was always on a blood sugar roller coaster. I felt like I'd pass out if I didn't eat. Then I would eat and I would need a nap. So I deeply sympathize for my sisters who are dealing with insulin resistance right now, but we're going to get through this and you're going to feel so good.
Yeah. And for anyone who's interested, it's called the Fresh Test. It's just basically, quote unquote, healthier version compared to the other ones they give you. Because with the other ones, it's still sugar, but they add like artificial flavoring, all these other things to make it more, whatever, like palatable. Sugary, palpable drink that you want it to be, I guess.
Why?
With the Fresh Test, it's just, there's still sugar in there, but there's no like artificial stuff in there either. So, all right. With all that, though, this kind of goes into today's episode. We're going to break down the food industry myths. Also, like, how to explain it. All these ingredients that are meant to trick us, that are meant to make us feel hungrier later, make us eat more, make us feel addicted to food. All these tricks that the food industry does, even the protein powder industry, if you drink like energy drinks, all that stuff we're going to talk about the common ingredients to watch out for so that you don't feel tricked or you don't feel addicted to certain foods.
Yes. So let's get right into it by starting off with the main point here, which is that foods are engineered for the bliss point. Okay?
And this is a huge one because it's going to get more and more complicated and much worse due to GLP-1s.
Yes. Foods are designed for the perfect combination of sugar, fat, and salt to override your satiety hormones like GLP-1s.
Yeah.
And the more popular GLP-1s become, the more hyper-focused the food industry becomes on making foods more palatable and more addicting and like kind of overriding the GLP-1s.
Yeah, just to explain that too. So for example, like a good example of this is like chips, right? It has certain amount of carbs. They even add some sugar in there a little bit. It has like this crunch, this taste, all of that. Why do we keep eating more and more and more with the oil and all this stuff? Well, it's overriding your satiety hormone, the main one being GLP-1. GLP-1 is a real hormone that your body makes to tell your brain that you're full. So these foods are engineered in a way to override those satiety hormones. So now that people are going on GLP-1 drugs, the food industry is like, oh crap, this means that people are going to eat Doritos less. People are going to eat whatever food you want to insert less because they're getting fuller due to the GLP-1 drugs. Well, the food industry is not gonna what's the term? Is not gonna just like back down from this. They're gonna go even harder in the paint to make sure that the foods are injected with even more stuff, or to include even more of these ingredients to make them more addicting to combat the GLP-1s.
And then they're going to label them as health foods.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, oh, this is good for my, it's high protein, but then it has like all these crazy ingredients in it, right?
Yeah. So how do we know to like, what would you recommend?
I would recommend learning to cook from home. Like, I know it's intimidating, and I try so hard to make it as easy as possible with our app, The Sisterhood. We have gluten and dairy-free recipes in there that are versions of delicious things that you might love, like orange chicken or a burger, or, and just simple meals like sloppy joe, like anything that you really love. I've transformed into an easy, delicious meal that you can cook from home, and make on repeat, or make in batches and freeze half of it so that you can just heat it up, next week. So relying on food outside of your house will make you vulnerable to all of these little traps. That doesn't mean like don't eat anything outside your house. It's just be aware that like these are, something to be cautious of.
Like with processed foods, especially, because that's where things get processed inside these things to include them.
Yes.
Number two, this is the biggest loophole in the food, in the health industry.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, it makes me really angry anytime I pick up a product and I see it. And that is quote unquote natural flavors. I don't know how this is legal, but companies can say natural flavor, which doesn't actually mean natural flavor. What it means is they added a synthetic flavor that mimics the natural flavor of what you're going for. So for example, vanilla, right? When you're, if you look at the label, for example, it'll say natural vanilla flavor. That doesn't mean that's the actual real vanilla. What they're doing is they're adding a synthetic flavor that tastes like vanilla, which is known as natural flavoring. I don't know how the heck they get away with this, but this is one of the reasons when we created our protein powder, Crave Control Protein Powder, now available at wolfit.org.
It's linked in the description.
It has real vanilla extract. No natural flavors, nothing artificial. It's the real deal. So what you want to do is when you look at a label is just look out for that natural flavor.
It shows organic too. Organic vanilla.
Yeah. So you want to look out for that natural flavor, because the thing with the fake natural flavor is that they're not healthy for us. They're usually solvent extracted, heat treated, and chemically altered to actually increase palatability. So it makes you it tricks your tongue into making it feel like, wow, this is really so much vanilla, delicious. But it's not like the real amount that you would actually taste from real vanilla.
Do you remember when we were taste testing teas before we landed on testosterone relief tea?
Yeah.
They sent us samples, and we kept sampling, and we kept trying to find something that really stood out. One of the samples they gave us had vanilla
vanilla
flavoring, right? Quote unquote.
And we smelled it when we opened the bag.
Yeah. We were like, this is it. This is the best. Like, wow, this smells so good. People are going to love this. And then when we learned that it was just the quote unquote natural flavor vanilla, we were like, damn it. We can't use this.
Yeah. And it's sad because it basically ruins your taste for the real thing. Because now when you have the real thing, you're like, this doesn't taste as good as the other thing that I have, which is not real, the flavors. So,
but now the thing with our tea is that because it doesn't have that like slap in the face vanilla flavor where, maybe you enjoy it the first cup, but not the second cup, it's like more calm. It's a better, like a slow dopamine hit rather than a slap in the face. So you want a second cup. You get kind of addicted to it. It's so delicious. But
sure.
It's not like this crazy slap in the face flavor.
And of course, we're not saying like don't have these things that have natural flavor. Of course, like it's called moderation. Enjoy your life. If sometimes it's gonna have it, right? But just some things to watch out for, like things that you consume every single day. For example, protein powders are notorious for it. Energy drinks are notorious for it. There's a very common, popular one that's marketed towards women. Once in a name, but it starts with an A. And yesterday during our weekly coaching call in the sisterhood, somebody brought up, hey, I drink this energy drink every day, multiple cans. Is it okay? And we opened it up. We looked at the ingredients so we could help her out. And literally the third, because when you look at the ingredient list, it's in the strength of strongest to weakest. And literally the third ingredient on it was natural flavors. So the third most ingredient in this energy drink is literally fake artificial solvent flavors, which is not what you want to drink. I told her you're better off drinking coffee. You know what I mean? Like we talk about not having excess coffee. Literally a cup of coffee will be 10 times healthier for you because of the antioxidants, natural caffeine, all that stuff, than any energy drink you're going to have with that kind of like crap in it.
Yeah, it was a huge list of ingredients. And we kind of like read some of them to her and explained what they meant. And she was so grateful that we were able to break that down for her, because she had a bunch of these energy drinks. She thought it was something that was going to help her with, working out for PCOS and giving her energy to get through the day. But in fact, 1 cup of coffee, like Sirak said, in the morning
so much
could
better
just
for you.
Be so much better for you.
Yeah. And again, this is not to scare you guys or not to make you feel like you can't enjoy life, but this is just coming from our honesty, from our own research. And I mean, at the end of the day, we want you to be as healthy as possible. We want you to enjoy life, but that also means you living longer, you
thriving while you live,
you having good gut health, you having not acne, you not having these symptoms that are associated with artificial flavors, artificial ingredients, all these things. Like we don't realize that like you get addicted to these things because of these things that are added, and then you feel like, oh, moderation or whatever, meaning I'm consuming it every day and I'm fine, but you don't actually realize the long-term impact, the long-term thing that it has. So I know a lot of times you may listen and be like, they're too like thing about it, but we're just watching out for you guys, and it's about for your long-term health.
So the next tip is sugar-free. Okay, I know with PCOS we have our sugar cravings, and many times we opt for the sugar-free option because it's diabetic friendly. It won't spike our blood sugar. It just seems to be a better option. Even at C's Candies, I remember I used to buy my grandma the sugar-free chocolates or sugar-free Jell-O from the market, and you think, okay, maybe you have pre-diabetes, insulin resistance, or diabetes, and this is a better option. But in fact, some of these sweeteners can increase your appetite later, especially in insulin-resistant women. So PCOS women experience delayed glucose spikes. So maybe you think that like it curbed your craving in the moment, but 2 or 3 hours later, you're going to crave something sweet again. And you're just getting your body used to a super, super sweet palate. Yes. Because, whether it's the fake sugars or it's stevia and erythritol, whatever it is, it's very, very sweet compared to sugar. And recently what I did in the Sisterhood app with our recipes is I actually swapped all of our dessert recipes that had xylitol in them for real sugar. And I just like reduced the amount of sugar. So in one serving, you're not getting like a huge amount of sugar or anything. Because all of these sweeteners end up having not all, but like xylitol specifically, I started to read about its effects on heart health. And I said, you know what, we need to remove this one now.
Yeah. Sometimes we found out new research, and it is our duty to keep up and update things. We're not going to just stick to something because of our ego, right? We're going to change it. We're going to improve. We're going to update because of new research that comes out.
Yeah. So I went in there and I updated all of the recipes to have them be actual sugar. You're getting them in low amounts. They're desserts anyways. And I think it's so much better than putting any other substitute specifically in a meal that you're going to eat. So don't be fooled by everything that's sugar-free. It doesn't necessarily mean what they're putting in it is actually good for you. Yeah,
exactly. And a little tip about stevia is that there are really in the food industry, there are 2 forms of stevia nowadays, most common. The first one is Reb A. The second one is Reb M. Reb A is the cheapest stevia to produce. This is where it's essentially the harshest tasting stevia because they have to use a lot of it to able to make an impact on the flavor. But this also is what gives it the really like, if you've ever tasted like stevia and it tastes just like really bitter and just tastes like just just like not good, right? That's Reb A. You kind of generally want to avoid that type of stevia. Stevia Reb M is actually the purest, highest quality stevia that you can make. It's made through people use different processes, but a lot of times it's done through fermentation, where they will actually use a natural fermentation period to get to that to get that stevia Reb M. And because of that, they can use much less, but the flavor is so much better, and it actually has a real sugar flavor. This is actually what we used in Crave Control protein powder. We used Reb M specifically, fermented using rice as the base ingredient. And the reason why is everything that I just explained. It doesn't result in the same glucose spike because it's not as sweet to your taste buds. It also is not bitter because it's not the poorer quality of stevia used, and it's also just healthier for you because your body can digest it better compared to when you're using a ton of the Reb A. So just a little information about that. If you want to look that up, Reb A versus Reb M, you'll find a lot of information about it.
Yes. We're very well informed about our sweeteners here.
Yes. Going to number 4. It's kind of the last one. I'm gonna add a little bonus at the end of this one. But this is something that I think started in the 90s. And to this day, people still get confused about it, or they think it's healthier. But that is low fat or no fat things.
So the other day we had this one-on-one coaching call in the Sisterhood app, and a fellow sister was telling me how she went to the doctor, got diagnosed with PCOS, and was told to just lose weight and take GLP-1s. She really wanted to understand what is going on with her body, why she's gaining weight so quickly.
Isn't it crazy, by the way? Now this is the new birth control. The new birth control is doctors giving GLP-1s.
So, but she's like, I refused. I'm not going to start the GLP-1s if I don't even know what is happening with my body and my hormones. No one's even talking to her about insulin resistance. Like, it's just whatever. So she joined the Sisterhood app. We're like the first thing that popped up for her, and she started to learn and got excited, joined the coaching call. And she was telling me how she felt like she wasn't losing weight consistently. And she was asking about like her blood sugar, how it's going up and down. There's a lot of swings. Before lunch, she's like starving. And then in between lunch and dinner, she like needs to eat, So we discussed how to keep her blood sugar stable and what insulin resistance is, because essentially that is what is causing us to gain weight so quickly. Month after month, you see the scale just going up and up. And one tip that I gave her was to increase her calories and her fat in her morning smoothie. She described her morning smoothie, and she was having, those powdered peanut butters that have no fat in them and they look super healthy and they're a little more expensive. Well, she was putting that in her smoothie because she was trying to, eat less and lose weight, right? And I told her one of the reasons why she's reaching lunchtime and her blood sugar is really low and she's starving is because her breakfast isn't solid yet. I said, once you finish your powdered peanut butter, you need to swap to regular peanut butter because that healthy fat is going to keep you fuller for longer and keep your blood sugar stable for longer, which is so much better for your insulin resistance. So just because something says low fat doesn't mean that it's actually good for you, especially in the context of PCOS. We're talking about healthy fats. We need them to keep us full longer and to help with insulin resistance. So I kind of transformed her breakfast, made it like 700 or 800 calories, added chia seeds because those are healthy fats and have a bit of protein in them too. And now she can feel full until lunchtime. And that is step 1 to weight loss, being able to manage your blood sugar throughout the day so your insulin levels are stable. And because when insulin is high, it's going to block fat burning. So we want to make sure that in between meals, we're not snacking so that insulin is low so we can burn fat naturally. So just understanding metabolism, this is really important. And this is why we like to be But we like to we like when sisters find us when, you look up PCOS and we initially pop up, because oftentimes after the doctor's appointment, you're just like, wait, what's going on? Like, someone explain something. And we always want to be there to explain what is going on with your metabolism, because these small adjustments can help you start losing weight. Lose 1 to 2 pounds every week. And over time, that will compound and you will naturally be able to lose weight and manage your symptoms.
Yep. I love it. All right, I have a final bonus one. This is something that's like new, and it's honestly taking over the meat industry, and that is what is known as meat glue. Now, I don't know if you've seen these videos, but this is a real thing that now grocery stores, markets are selling. So what they do is they essentially glue pieces of meat together to make it look like as if it's one piece of steak or one piece of whatever they're selling. What is it called? It's called transglutaminase. Transglutaminase. I don't know.
Transglutaminase?
Sure. I like it, that one. So what does it do? It literally, the purpose of this is to bind or bond proteins together. Markets or manufacturers do this to basically turn like small scraps of meat that's been like maybe left over from their process to make it into a full steak. So it's literally like a bunch of different pieces of meat that's glued together. It's the whole point is like reduce food waste, lower costs, but it's honestly, there's a bit more nuance, or there's a bit of like manipulation or like what is the term? Not honesty, dishonesty happening about it. So the FDA does consider transglutaminase to be safe when used properly. What does properly mean? Well, because these are different pieces of meat that are glued together, when they glue them together, what happens is there can be bacteria that can be stuck in between the pieces that are glued together. So what that means is when you cook these meats, you're actually supposed to cook them all the way through because of the potential for more bacteria of the pieces that are trapped inside, or the bacteria that's trapped inside. So how do you know if this meat you're buying, if this piece of steak, maybe it says ribeye or maybe it says this, how do you know if it has this glue in it? Well, normally it will have one of the following terms, but they don't tell you, or they don't have to tell you in restaurants. So look for phrases on the packaging like formed meat, restructured meat, or contains transglutaminase, or processed meat product. Any of those four means that it's a piece of meat that's glued together. But again, at restaurants, they don't have to tell you. So you could think that you're getting like this fancy piece of like ribeye or this fancy piece of filet mignon, but then it's actually this cheap piece of meat that they've glued together and they're just selling it to you for the prices of a real filet mignon. So,
with your English.
I'm sorry.
Filet mignon.
Especially if it's really cheap, that's like one of the first few signs that, it's glued together, or if it looks way too uniform or perfectly shaped, or if like, let's say the texture, like when you're like cutting through it and you feel like there's like chunks falling out, another sign that it's actually glued together.
Gosh.
So one thing you want to just do, excuse me, one thing you want to do is you want to ask, if you're, let's say, going to a butcher or you're going to a restaurant, just ask them, because they have to tell you if you ask them, is this a full cut? Is this been glued together? Do you use transglutaminase, etc.? Now, Why is this actually bad? Because it's not just about the bacteria that I talked about, but it's also can be toxic. The research is showing, and the thing is, the FDA, when they like regulate, when they say something is okay, they don't look at the long-term impact. They just look at it, if you eat this one time, is there a problem? But the truth is, they don't really look at the long-term effects as if we're all eating this for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. The problem is that the digestive concerns, it's showing that this transglutaminase can actually increase gut permeability. So gut dysbiosis, your gut linings opening up, like we talk about with gluten a lot of times. And especially it can do this for people who are gluten sensitive. So especially for women with PCOS who have a sensitivity to gluten, this is a big thing. So just keep that in mind. Also, the other part is the I mentioned the cooking confusion, because people think, okay, I can have this and have it like medium and it'll be fine, but because of the bacteria, that's actually dangerous. The quality masking, where people can be tricked into thinking they're buying something high quality. And yeah, I think the biggest thing was the gut permeability and how that has an overall impact on your health long term.
The future of food, sisters.
Yeah.
We must be informed and aware of what's happening, especially women with PCOS who already have chronic inflammation. Watching out for things like transglutaminase or natural flavors or low fat, sugar free. All of these things we have to be aware of when we're choosing foods outside of our homes that we're not cooking. So
exactly. And if you enjoyed this episode, let us know in the comments. We'll do a part 2, because there's so many more things. There's so many more ingredients. There's so many more tricks and myths that the food industry, health industry does that we just like accept or we don't know about. So let us know. Comment, I want part 2, and we'll make that. And in the meantime, if you're looking for actual supplements, if you're looking for actual protein powders that don't have any natural fake flavors or don't have any fake sugars or don't have anything of those things that we talked about today, check out our supplement line, ovofit.org. Everything there, including our protein powder, is full of real flavors and real ingredients. And if you're looking for recipes that are real foods, things you can make at home, you can make on the go, you can meal prep, all that kind of stuff. We have 250 plus gluten and dairy-free recipes in the Sisterhood app. Check out the link in bio for that as well.
yes. All right, sisters, I hope you enjoyed this episode and are mindful throughout this new year of what you consume. And we will always be here to support you with healthy products and also PCOS education to help you learn and feel empowered about your health.
Absolutely. See you next time. Have a great rest of your day.